So what should we talk about today? You know what? This is a rhetorical question because I already know what I want to talk about. Roll it. It's the very curious news from around my brain with the amazing Conrad. Very curious news, Adam. Number one, UEFA names the winner for their goal of the year. And it's, drumroll please, in case you haven't heard, Cristiano Ronaldo's bicycle kick against Juventus in last season's Champions League quarterfinals, which was a ridiculous goal and quite possibly the best goal of his career, which isn't an easy claim to make since the guy has scored so many ridiculous goals. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Gareth Bale's game-winning bicycle kick in the Champions League final was probably just as good as CR7's in terms of technique, but way more important because it was the game-winning goal, I gotta reiterate that, in the final of the biggest club competition in the world. So as crazy as it is to say, since again, Cristiano's goal was tremendous, I feel like Bale got robbed of this award, which means he's still in Cristiano's shadow. He just can't escape it. Very curious news, Adam. Number two, American soccer hero Clint Dempsey has retired. Yes, that's right, it is official. My former US teammate and the man who once broke my jaw on John Terry's face and scored in 3 World Cups and led Fulham to a Europa League final and the Seattle Sounders to their first ever MLS Cup trophy, among many other things, has announced his retirement from the beautiful game. And actually, it makes me a little sad because it's the end of an era for a player who was completely self-made, who willed this vision of what he was capable of into life. And most importantly, and what I feel like I admire most about him, is that he always stayed true to this vision and to himself, and that led to him being one of the best players that this country has ever produced. So Clint, if you're watching, congratulations on a great career, my friend, because you earned it every step of the way. No one ever handed you anything, and that's what's up. Very curious news, Adam. Number 3. It's the Jose Mourinho dilemma. Because if you're Manchester United, what do you do with the self-proclaimed special one who doesn't exude that same specialness anymore? He has never lasted more than 3 years at any club that he has managed, and this is year 3 with United. So it had to be clear to Ed Woodward and the rest of the decision makers at the club that this year was going to be a tough one with Jose, which is maybe why they decided not to make any significant signings over the summer besides Fred, who, after looking at it again, I can't believe they paid 60 million euros for Fred. That is just what? So I feel like the United board just got to the point where they said, F it, we're not going to let you spend any more money, Jose. You got what you got, now coach them. And Jose's probably thinking, the only way I can coach them is to protect them because my center backs, the ones from before, Smalling and Jones, are not as good anymore, or never were. And the ones that I bought, Eric Bailly and Victor Lindelof, aren't good either. And yes, even though that's on me, I still need better players to win, so we have to sit back right now so that those guys don't get exposed. And then Jose gets hammered by the fans and the media, and maybe me, for always playing negative and putting handcuffs on his most talented attacking players, which limits their ability to go forward. So he finally puts out a lineup against Spurs this past weekend that looks somewhat promising, and it's in a 3-3-3-1 formation, which of course could morph into a variety of different formations based on the position of the ball on the field. And I thought United looked good for the first half and in complete control of this game, even though it was only 0-0 after 45 minutes, and they were going forward with purpose and with numbers, and it felt like, all right, at least United is trying to play. But when that happens, you do leave yourself vulnerable in the back at times, something Mourinho seemed genuinely worried about because he didn't want to be exposed, like I mentioned before, which is why he plays more defensive in the first place, or at least that's why I think he's trying to tell us why he does that. But for this game against Spurs, he seemed to say, F it, let's go for it and see what happens. And the defense did get exposed after some poor marking, some lapses in concentration, and some poor 1v1 defending, which led to them losing 3-0. So in summation, Mourinho really can't win, because if he plays defensive to protect his bang average defenders, he gets killed for it, even though it wins him games more often than not, even if it's not all that entertaining to watch. And if he plays with more attacking flavor, like we just saw against Spurs, it was a lot more entertaining, but they lost, so he gets killed for that too. So I don't envy the guy. However, he has ultimately done this to himself. His arrogance, which used to be charming when he was winning, isn't as charming when he's losing, like when he said after this last match that he deserves respect because he has won more Premier League titles than all the other Premier League managers combined. But in my opinion, he gets that respect. People just expect more from him because of who he is and what he's done, so he's become a victim of his own success. Which gets us back to the original question, what should United do? And I think the decision has to come down to whether they want to give him another transfer window to fix things or not. And if not, then they should let him go now and let the new guy who comes in get acclimated to the squad, so if he wants to make changes by January, then he can do so. But if they do let Jose stay, then they have to let him spend on better center backs in particular, but who is out there and who is realistically going to come? Maybe Marquinhos from PSG, or is Spurs Alderweireld still an option, or Koulibaly from Napoli, or Jimenez from Atleti? I mean, all of these guys would be a marked improvement on the playing side of it, but I think what United lacks the most from this position in the field is leadership. Players that are good communicators, have a really strong presence on the field, and hold everyone accountable. And I'm not really sure if the players that I named have that quality as well. They might, but it's still to be determined, I think. But if you look at the top two title contenders this season, Man City and Liverpool, they have that in Vincent Kompany and Virgil van Dijk respectively. And I think that's a big reason for their success. Anyway, if Zinedine Zidane was available to take over, I would consider him, and maybe Roy Keane, maybe. Otherwise, I don't think United should take the easy way out because, as Robert Louis Stevenson once said, and this is one of my favorite quotes, especially if I'm going through tough times, you cannot run away from weakness. You must sometime fight it out or perish. And if that be so, why not now and where you stand? So I want to see United and Mourinho fight through this adversity together and see where it gets them, as opposed to them pointing the finger at each other about who is more to blame for this dire situation. So we'll see what they end up doing. Very curious news, Adam. Number 4. FIFA and US Soccer meet with President Trump, which prompted Mr. Trump to tweet, "Add the 2026 World Cup to our long list of accomplishments." And okay, wait. Hold up, tap the brakes. You did nothing, big guy. This organized effort has been in the works for many years, but us winning the joint bid to host the biggest sporting event in the world with Mexico and Canada just happened to get announced when you were in office. Also, if you had something to do with this bid, you never ever would have shared the hosting event with Mexico or Canada. You would have made it America only, so pipe down about it. Also ×2, I've got 2 other things of note. 1, the usually very active US Soccer social media accounts didn't put out any tweets or pictures on Instagram of new US Soccer President Carlos Cordero meeting with the president, which seems kind of weird, right? It's almost like they were embarrassed in some way to be seen with the guy. And 2, FIFA President Gianni Infantino was also in attendance, so it probably felt pretty good for him to not feel like the most corrupt guy in the room. But these are the jokes, folks. Also, Mr. Infantino says he wants to see promotion and relegation in the US, but hasn't decided if he's going to force them to do it yet. And I like that yet part. And he wants to scrap the Confederations Cup, and he wants to make the FIFA Club World Cup an every 4 years event with 32 teams with at least one guaranteed spot for an MLS club. And I mean, thinking through all these things that he said, I'm 100% open to promotion relegation here because I know it would make a big difference in the development of the game in this country. And I'm for scrapping the Confederations Cup since the players need more rest in general, and this would give them the opportunity to do so. And I'm intrigued about this new FIFA Club World Cup idea, but I want to hear more details. Anyway, that is it. That is all I got. So let me know your thoughts on the UEFA Goal of the Year. Bale definitely deserved it. And if Clint Dempsey's the best American player of all time, quite possibly. And what Manchester United should do with Jose Mourinho. I say keep him for now. And finally, your opinion on this possible every 4 years FIFA Club World Cup idea. The more I think about it, the more I'm feeling it. And then hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you tomorrow for previews and predictions. Later.